C1. And we were going to add a brief closed session at the end of the meeting under other business. So looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Question, Director Taylor? C1 and B1 were the two items being removed. Okay. All right. Again, for the motion to approve the agenda as amended, moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. All those opposed? That motion carries. That brings us to the consent agenda, corporate issues. Looking for a motion to adopt that. Mover, thank you. Seconded. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to section B, development services, a building bylaw in, well, that one's the one that we've removed. Nothing under B, my mistake. So down to C, and C1 is gone. So C2, Agricultural Land Commission, Area D, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. I have a bit of a IT issue here, and here it comes, as I say that. So the purpose of this report is an application has been submitted to the Agricultural Land Commission under section 21.2 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act and referred to the regional district in order to permit a subdivision to occur within the agricultural land reserve, with the staff recommendation being that the RDOS Board not authorize the application to subdivide the parcel located at 3841 Allendale Lake Road to proceed to the Agricultural Land Commission. And I'll go down. Is there a PowerPoint presentation, staff? No PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, I'll go to Director Taylor. Direction on this one.
Yeah, in agreement with the recommendation from the APC, and I would support the staff recommendation.
Okay, so you're moving it, seconded, it's on the floor. Any discussion on this? Go ahead, Director Taylor.
Would we be inviting comment from the?
We probably should. Good catch. I will ask. This is a motion to deny. We usually ask the applicant if he's or she is in the room and or online and they would like to address the board. Now would be an opportunity to do so. I'm not seeing any hands online. If you could raise your hand if you're online. I'll check with Adam. You're not seeing anything? Okay. Anything further, Director Taylor? No? Any other discussions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. This one is a corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C3, a DVP in Area D, CAO.
Thank you. The application is seeking variance to the minimum parcel size for subdivision that applies to the subject property in order to undertake a boundary adjustment for a subdivision. And the administrative recommendation is that development variance permit 2025.015 to vary the minimum parcel size for a portion of the hooked parcel to undertake a boundary adjustment between the properties at 4287 and 4301 McLean Creek Road be denied. Staff is here to answer questions. No PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, again, I'll go to Director Taylor. Direction?
Yeah, I'll refer this to the APC, please.
Okay, so you're moving it to go to the APC, seconded. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to C4, a DVP, this time in Area H, CAO.
This application is seeking a variance to the minimum parcel size or subdivision that applies to the subject property in order to undertake the boundary adjustment, again for a subdivision, with the staff recommendation being that development variance permit number 2025.015 to vary the minimum parcel size for a portion of the hooked parcel. This is not correct.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
C4.
I thought it was familiar. Okay, let's try it again. This application is seeking a variance to the front parcel line setback and maximum height for an accessory building that applies to a subject property in order to undertake the construction of a carport, with the staff recommendation being the development variance permit 2025 point. No, are we doing? Okay, there's something wrong with my computer. Let's hold on. Yeah, okay. This has got to be right. Okay. I've been having trouble with this thing.
C4.
Yes. And we all have to wait while my machine thinks.
Yeah.
I'm just going to cheat and go right to the summary because it's not coming up. It doesn't like C4.
Okay.
So I'll go right to the recommendation is that the development variance permit H 2025D DVP to allow for the construction of an accessory building to a height of 5.5 meters at 1883 Columbia Street be denied. And that's all I have because I'm only looking at the summary.
All right.
Still has.
I will go to Director Coyne. Direction on this.
Yeah, I would like to make the alternate recommendation to approve the DVP.
Okay, so you're moving approval, seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Go ahead, Director Coyne.
Yeah, this is in the flood area there, and this is being raised up a little bit to be able to accommodate that. So the foundation of the house and the foundation of the garage will be the same, and it's crown land on one side and nothing on the other side. There's been nobody has any issues with this that I'm aware of. There was no complaints or anything put in. So I think that, and if by putting it at that height, it's going to look like it belongs there because it'll be close to matching the existing house. So I want to make sure we approve this one. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, again, this is a rural vote. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C5, development variance in Area I, CAO.
Just want to state that I do know how to work computers, but this computer's giving me some grief. So again, I'm just going to read, it did pop up as I said that. Okay, this application is seeking a variance to the maximum accessory building height that applies to the subject property in order to undertake the construction of a shop, with the staff recommendation being the development variance permit H 2025.014 to allow for the construction of an accessory building to a height of 5.5 meters at 1883 Columbia Street be denied. Staff's here to answer questions.
I hate to say
Okay,
that.
I'm giving up on the computer and I'm only going to use the hard line. It's okay. Not C5. Okay. C5. I can't read it. The development variance permit number I 2025.016 DVP to allow for the construction of accessory building at 185 Range Road be denied.
Okay, and I will go to
I'm not
Director
using
Monteith. Direction on this.
Thank you. I'd like to make the administrative recommendation.
Okay, so you're moving it. Is there a seconder for it? It's on the floor. Any discussion? Oh, before we go there, I need to ask if the applicant is in the room or online and would like to address the board. Please raise your hand to let us know if you would like to do that. I'm not seeing any hands. Adam, are you seeing anybody? Okay. Any discussion then? I'll go back to the board for discussion. No hands. This one is again rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C6, a temporary use application in Area E, CAO.
Thank you, and I'm going to trust the computer that it's working now. This application is seeking to allow a vacation rental use to operate on the subject property through the issuance of a temporary use permit, with staff recommendation being the temporary use permit E 2025.06 TUP to allow vacation rental use at 1160 Upper Debec Road, Naramata be approved.
And I will go to Director Federico.
I'll move
Direction.
it. I'll move the staff administrative recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this one? Not seeing any hands. Again, rural vote. I'll call question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C7, zoning amendment in Area D, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to introduce a series of text amendments to current zoning bylaw that would allow for exemption to the current off-street parking requirements for a selected number of parcels fronting Highway 97 in OK Falls, with recommendation being that the Okanagan Valley zoning amendment bylaw 2800.55 2022 be read a first, second, and third time and proceed to the public, and that the building for a public hearing and that the holding of a public hearing be scheduled for the Regional District Board meeting of August 21st, 2025. And finally, that the staff give notice to the public hearing in accordance with the requirement of the Local Government Act, and staff's here to answer questions.
Okay, go to Director Taylor. Direction on this one?
I should have asked this question earlier, but at what point would it conceivably go to an APC? Can it go after a public hearing?
I'll check with staff.
So through the chair, no, not after the public hearing. If there's a desire for the APC to consider this one, we would try to get that meeting scheduled before the public hearing occurs so we can get their feedback.
Can we do both?
Two separate processes, so we would try to encourage the board to keep the APC meeting separate from the public hearing.
Well, it would be separate. I think what he was meaning, could we approve this and also send it to the APC? Would there be time? I think is what he was wondering.
I would suggest to the board that possibly the public hearing date of August 21st be reconsidered to a September date in order to give us time and flexibility to schedule the APC.
Okay.
So you're all on this, Director Taylor?
Yeah, I'd like to see this go to the APC, and I don't have a problem with deferring this to September, and I'd like to make both those decisions today.
Is that okay with staff? Do we have the meeting date in September? Which one?
Through the chair, I suspect we would ask the APC if they'd be open to a special meeting in order to accommodate this.
Okay. All right. So Director Taylor's sending it to the APC and this recommendation, but the first meeting in September.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a seconder for those? Seconded. Any discussion? Not seeing any. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C8, a zoning amendment in Area C, CAO.
This application is seeking to amend the zoning of the subject property in order to construction of an agro-tourism accommodation, with staff recommendation being that the Okanagan Valley zoning amendment bylaw 2800.54 2025 be adopted.
Okay, and I'll go to Director Chahal. Direction on this one?
I would like to move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved, seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Again, a rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C9, regulating and the creation of new private utilities, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to seek bylaw amendments to introduce regulations in relations to the private water and sewer utility. The staff recommendation being that the official community plan amendment bylaw 3045 2025 zoning amendment bylaw number 3046 2025 subdivision servicing and development bylaw 2900.01 2025 and development procedure amendment bylaw 2500.34 2025 be adopted. Staff's here to answer questions.
Okay, someone prepared to move this? Moved. Seconder, thank you. Someone had a question. Was that Director Roberts?
Because there's 4 of us that are out of it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none. Corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us to community services. Item D1, a Healthy Communities Plan H grant request, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to support the neighborhood resiliency and sustainability process on climate readiness project led by the Community Foundation of South Okanagan, Similkameen, in partnership with the Regional District of Okanagan, Similkameen. This initiative aims to foster healthy public policies by empowering resident-led climate-aligned projects that build neighborhood resiliency. With the staff recommendation is that the Board of Directors support the application to the Plan H grant to be submitted to BC Health Communities for the Neighborhood Resiliency and Sustainability Project in partnership with the Community Foundation of South Okanagan. This one's a little different than what you usually get for grant application, because this is actually a catch-up in that the grant has been submitted from what I understand. However, due process is that the board does need to approve all grants that are applied. And I would ask all directors and staff to work with our policy. Do not apply for a grant until the board has approved it, but you do have the recommendation here.
Okay. Someone prepared to move it? Moved, seconded, thank you. Any discussion on this one? Quiet bunch here today. Again, a corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion. Or is that a late hand from Director Rainin? Oh, disappeared. So, all right, that motion carries. Protective Services Declaration State of Local Emergency Approval, CAO.
Thank you. So this is in regards to the last emergency, EOC emergency that we had. Essentially, it's a statutory requirements that the board endorse the statutory declaration, and the staff recommendation is that the declaration of state of local emergency for electoral area H be issued by the chair on July 12th in response to the August Lake wildfire event be ratified, and that all declarations be submitted to the Ministry of State of Emergency Readiness for approval, and staff's here to answer any questions. Just as a side, just so everyone knows, on that weekend, we actually had 3 fires that were going, and it was the first level 2 fire that we've had this year for our EOC. And I want to thank all the staff that was there. It always happens at 4:30 Friday, and that's continuing to happen, and it didn't end until Monday the following week.
Okay, looking for a motion on this. Someone prepared to move it? Moved. Seconder, thank you. Any discussion on this? Fairly standard practice. Director Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Quick question for Sean. How's the mobile EOC? It passed by ambulance behind a tow truck.
Yes, it had.
Oh.
Yeah, we unfortunately were heading out over to deploy out over to the event in at Tulameen this past weekend, and we had a brake issue in the vehicle, so we decided that it was unsafe. We had a mechanic head up there, and then we just have it at inland here. So just getting annual repairs for it. So yeah, it should be operational within a week, hopefully here. But we do got the trailer if we need to deploy it.
Okay, good to know. Any other discussion? Seeing none, corporate vote, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to E2, Shouty Creek Post-Wildfire Natural Hazard Risk Analysis, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. This is for information only. It's to inform the board of the results of the 2023 Shouty Creek Watershed Post-Wildfire Natural Hazard Resource Analysis. Staff's here to answer questions you may have.
Is there any questions in regards to this? Not seeing any hands. Okay, down to Finance, Building Inspection Reserve Expenditure, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is the Building Inspection Department is requesting the use of additional reserve funds to expedite the building permit scanning project, with the staff recommendation being that bylaw number 3115/2025 being a bylaw that authorizes the expenditures of $50,000 from the Building Inspection Stabilization Reserve Fund for the purpose of completing the building permit scanning project be given a first, second, and third reading and adopted. The CFO is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Any questions?
Promoted.
Again, not seeing any hands. Someone prepared to move. Oh, Director Taylor?
Can you just give us some information about how much this is going to move you forward? Like, how much time are you saving, staff time? How much time would it take if we didn't do this?
Okay.
Is it going to push us beyond our move date?
I
That's the
think
kind of
that's
thing.
the issue, but go ahead, staff.
And unfortunately, Mr. Petrie isn't here, but I can let you know what I know. It was budgeted in 2026 to actually have this expenditure, but they want to move it forward so that we can get it done before a possible move. I also believe that a contractor is being used because it was more efficient. I believe that's in the board report that a contractor is being used rather than a staff person to do this more efficiently.
Okay.
I don't know if I've
So
answered your question.
It would basically move us up almost a year in terms of
Right.
completion.
This was budgeted for 2026 to get it done. I believe they're 60 to 70% done now. So they wanted to get this last piece done in this year rather than wait for 2026.
Okay. Anything further on this? Somebody prepared to move it? Moved, a seconder. Thank you. Any discussion? Corporate vote, we'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to legislative services, Naramata Water Street Lighting Amendment Bylaws, CAO.
Thank you. This is to facilitate development of a fire and rescue training facility with a staff recommendation being that the Naramata Water System Local Service Establishment Amendment Bylaw 3116/2025 and that Naramata Street Local Service Establishment Amendment Bylaw 1618.04 be read a first, second, and third time. Staff is here to answer questions.
Okay, I'll go to Director Fedrigo.
I will make the motion, move that forward.
Moving it, seconded, it's on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing no hands, again, corporate, all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Loan authorization bylaw, CAO.
So thank you. So the background on this, on April 17, 2025, the Board of Directors gave 3 readings to loan authorization bylaw number 3106/2025 to authorize the borrowing of up to $10 million, worst case scenario, to purchase a corporate building in the city of Penticton at 3547 Skaha Lake Road. This loan authorization bylaw is in relation to that, with the administrative recommendation being that the loan authorization bylaw 3106/2025 be adopted.
Somebody have a hand up? Is that? Okay, I'll just check with Jason or Director Rainan. Do you have a question? I see a hand up. Not hearing you. Maybe it's a leftover. If it isn't, just speak up. Otherwise, we'll have a mover for this. It's moved. Is there a seconder? Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Wow. Okay. Corporate vote. We'll call a question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Over to CAO reports. Request, I'll just leave it to the CAO for his report.
I'm lucky that the next 2 are mine because my computer stopped working again. Email to IT. So these next 2 letters are both going to be asking for a letter of support. The first one that we're talking about, H1, is in regards to Okanagan Falls. What's interesting is the day after this became a public document, you received it. I actually got confirmation from the province that for the OK Falls, they are going to, the minister, in this case, Mr. Boyle, will be meeting. I got a verbal confirmation that as of August, the week of August 11th, while they didn't say which specific date, they will be meeting with us. I'm what I will be asking, I've got a meeting with the ministry tomorrow. I'm asking that when the meeting is set up, that they meet with OIB first, and they meet with you with the director and the board second, because that way you know exactly what the asks are. So in this case here, the recommendation is that the board authorize the chair to write a letter to the province of British Columbia in support of finalization of this incorporation of the municipality of Okanagan Falls, expressing concern over the delay in issuing the letters patent and urging timely completion of the process. So I'd still recommend that the letter go through, just to have the process flow through. And we may be asking for meetings other than with Minister Boyle. So that's the recommendation. If anyone has any questions, I'm the staff that you would ask the questions to.
Okay. You're moving it. Director Taylor, I'm assuming, is seconding it. Any discussion on it? Go ahead, Director Taylor.
Yeah, I think I would like the board to be aware, and to the degree possible, I'd like the letter to reflect concern as to the province's lack of process to accommodate new legislation. The resultant immediate and ongoing impact on the residents of OK Falls results from that, and the resultant impact on our current and future relations with First Nations as a result of that lack of process.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Director Bush is opposing, but that motion still carries. Go ahead, CAO, continue on.
Thank you. So again, this is similar. We're asking for a letter of support. Interestingly enough, we do have a meeting set up, confirmed through Teams, and next week it could be live. That we're going to determine that, and it's in Nelson. So that's something that the director and I were coordinating to see if we could go face to face. We don't have the authorization yet to do that, but we do have a meeting set up tentatively. Again, I would still say that the board should be considering this recommendation. It is to do with the Sage Mesa water system, and I have to commend the director is working very hard on this and putting a lot of hours to help reduce the burden on the Sage Mesa clients that are up there. With that, the recommendation is that the board authorize the chair to write a letter to the province of British Columbia to address to all ministers involved with the Sage Mesa water system, requesting an urgent meeting with the chair, Director Gettins, and appropriate RDOS staff. I'm recommending this is because we're meeting with one minister, but there will be other ministers that would be involved in this that could help the Sage Mesa system.
Okay. Director Gettins.
Thanks. I'll move the recommendation and I'd just like to speak to it, please.
Okay, moved, seconded. Go ahead, Director Gettins.
Thanks. I just wanted to give an update to the board and to citizens as well, because this is obviously a really stressful conversation to have for several citizens who are looking at a pretty significant debt payment. So for the past several months, as the CAO alluded, there's been a lot of back and forth conversation with ministry staff. And my main message, of course, has been explaining that the system has been under provincial stewardship for over 3 decades and is now in such a degraded state that we're looking at a $33 million cost to repair it, and that's being transferred over to the ratepayers. And my main request, and the ministries we've been talking to, is Housing and Municipal Affairs, Walrus, and then also Minister of State. And the request is asking for special circumstances to provide early financial commitment from the citizens to help alleviate some of the burden that these citizens are facing, just to help assure the debt, because the $9,100 bill a year is just not attainable for most citizens. So I'm looking for any contingency funds, any kind of grants that have been returned from last year, like just anything that we can do to help. And then I'm also asking for the ministries to work in partnerships, because what we have seen for the past several years that I've been in this seat, and most recently for me the last few months, is you just kind of get bounced around. We're the ones without the money, they have the money. Oh, and then surprisingly, we get a new housing minister in the middle of all of this. So it's feeling a little bit frustrating. So I want to say very thankful to Minister Anderson's staff They have been really responsive, and it's the first time that we've got a meeting. We've asked for meetings with Minister Neil, and it's been declined, and we've been asked to go instead and meet with the ADM, who, because this board has put forward Sage Mesa as a priority, has agreed to write a letter of support for our application for UBCM. And if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, I think that we might also get a letter from the Minister of Support if they like our application and it goes that far. Minister of Housing has just basically, we heard back from the Deputy Minister that basically it's up to the ratepayers to support their own infrastructure. So I have responded to that, reminding them that they were the ones in charge of that decision for the past 30 years. And hopefully the new minister will find some time in her schedule to perhaps meet with Minister Anderson as well. So that has been part of the work that's been ongoing. We've also had really great conversations with our MLA and our MP. They too have been really helpful in the behind the scenes as much as they can. They are seeking money, but of course that's not necessarily possible for they are as well. There's been a few other community leaders who have been involved in these conversations. I do just need to address as well that there is, I just want to remind citizens that the reason we use the regional connections page that's part of the RDOS is that information is accurate and it's been vetted by our staff. We know what we're putting on there is possible or feasible or legal. There's been some other information being circulated by citizens. I just encourage people to familiar yourself with regional connections, and other information is opinion and speculation. Like, it's not been vetted by anybody here. And I just want to make that really clear, because there's a lot of static, and I think that is removing focus from what we actually have to make a decision about. So please, please use regional connections. So in the coming weeks, as the CAO said, we're going to finish up this UBCM grant. That'll go over to Walrus for their potential endorsement and letters of support. I believe it's next week. We're going to look at setting the referendum date for the citizens to vote, because again, that date has not been set, because we are trying to figure out how to make that request for $33 million a little bit more obtainable, lower. Early September, we'll meet with Minister Anderson, and hopefully Minister Neil, Minister Boyle will also join that meeting. We have a third meeting with September 10th. This is the third public meeting about this system, and so at which time we will give updates on this. I don't think we need to review the different options of what we can or what we should or should not do for building. I think we really need to have a good chat with citizens so they can test information, make sure they have the right information to do the vote. And then, of course, and your MLA, your MP, and each minister have been invited to that meeting as well for September 10th. They were invited to the last meeting as well that we had in June. The end of September, of course, is UBCM, and we will also advocate there too. If citizens are looking to support the work that's happening here, I think the most beneficial thing you can do is write a sincere, respectful email to your ministers. I wouldn't use the template. I would really be respectful and say what this means to you as a citizen. And those ministers, and I'll put this on the our area blog, but that's Minister Neil, Minister Anderson, and Minister Boyle. They need to hear directly from the citizens, not a template. Use the facts that we have on regional connections. If you need any help, let me know. Please CC me. It helps. It does help. And then finally, I just want to thank citizens for those that have been active and really trying to work on this, but know that you're not alone. Everyone around this table values and has prioritized that. That's why this is a system that gets to go to the UBCM grant. Your MP and your MLA are involved, and we're getting closer with ministers. So I just wanted to let you all know there's been a lot going on in the background, and thank you to staff, because again, this is not an RDOS system, and they're putting in time outside of the regular things that they're budgeted to do to answer all the citizens' questions. So I want to thank that and the CAO, and we're just going to keep on moving forward with this.
Okay, thank you for that. Director Bloomfield.
Thank you. And through the chair, I'd just like to echo everything that Director Gettin said. I have been forwarded and some emails personally that have been flying around the West Bench area where there's been the suggestion that getting water supply, water from the city of Penticton is an option, which at the moment is not an option. There's no agreement. I want to stipulate that for the public right now. There's no agreement for the city of Penticton to supply water to Sage Mesa. And could that happen in the future? That's a decision between the board and the city of Penticton, but that has not happened yet. And I just want the clarity of that, because I don't want anybody to be misled by some of the chatter that is going around on this subject. And so, once again, echoing what Director Getton said, but just wanted to clarify that point particularly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Director Getton?
Yeah, thanks to Director Bloomfield, sorry. Yeah, I just want to clarify with that too. Some of the conversation was to have Sage Mesa go directly to the city and not through the regional district. So there is a bulk water agreement that does consider Sage Mesa if it becomes under the ownership of the regional district. Those terms are not finalized. They haven't yet been negotiation, but I believe what you're referring to is the idea from citizens just to cut out the regional district and hook up to the city directly. So I just wanted to clarify that, because there is a bulk water agreement. Again, it does consider Sage Mesa. That agreement is not finalized unless the system comes over to Sage Mesa. And I know this sounds like we're painting citizens in the corner, and I hear it. It feels like we are. And it's not to anything that these citizens did, that these decisions have been made beyond their control, but this is not a great place to ever see a citizen be placed. So I just wanted to clarify that, not in trying to enforce this idea of painting people into corners. Thanks.
Okay. Director Taylor?
I support this motion. I do want to acknowledge, though, that there are other systems that we've actually got already in-house, and they're going to be paying even more than Sage Mesa are presently booked to be paying. So I think as a board, we have to do what we can, and writing these kind of letters and requesting these meetings is part of the process. I just fully expect that the board is going to follow suit with some of the other systems that we've got that are going to require similar kind of lobbying and support to get financial support for their investment, infrastructure investment.
Good point. And the more we take on, the more asks we get, for sure. Anything further, Director Taylor?
I mean, yeah, we talk and we get concerned about taking on more, but there is income to go with that, and part of the budget is more staff. So in theory, we've budgeted more staff to do this more work. So I don't think we should be using that as a point of concern. Yeah.
Okay. On the, I was just going to say, I'll call the question. If you wanted to say something, now would be the time.
Yeah, sorry. And the question can be called, but I wanted to follow up with that, Director, because I understand that we have more staff, if in theory, if we have more systems. But one thing I think we have to also see, and I know this isn't what you mean, but trying to find money for this system in particular, and recognizing the fiscal reality that our province is going to find themselves in. I think the next budget review is in September, and I don't think it's going to be good news. Like, I think it's probably not going to be anything that we have right now. So the access to those grants, because that's really what local governments depend on to get this work done. We don't depend on 200 homes or 300 homes. We depend on these grants. And I don't know what that's going to look like in the next 4 years. So when we bring on these systems, I think we have to realize that tactic of getting grants, I don't think that's as viable as it was. And I think that's part of the struggle, that there's only so much citizens can take on. And then they hit their plateau, and then how much more free goes. So I just wanted to point that out as well. So that's it.
Yeah, lots to consider. Director Roberts, and then I'm calling the question here.
Thank you, the chair. And I think it's important, as stated with Sage Mesa, things that are the responsibility of the province. And when they were running a system, and I'm also looking at it in regards to Headley's water system, which is under an improvement district, but it hasn't been held accountable or looked after by the municipal affairs. And even with community members reaching out and asking for assistance or work to be done. And we're looking at changes at federal levels in regards to acceptable amounts of arsenic that's going to change and all of a sudden make it impossible for the community to provide itself its water, because it'll be considered non-consumable. And again, it's a choice done at a higher level of government with no money attached. We're having all these choices and decisions made at upper levels of government. And it's one thing to say offload or that we can have staff, but again, it does cost. And when we had worries and concerns from this table around the liability of a garbage truck, I think the liability of all these water systems and sewer systems and things that we're under jurisdiction at different levels with either federal or provincial governments, and then all of a sudden it ends up on our lap. So I think it's, this is such a timely discussion and a time to really take up, lack of better terms, arms to go towards the province and the feds and say, show us the money, because we're putting, they are by their decisions or lack of decisions, putting our citizens at risk. Thanks.
Okay, I'll call the question on this letter. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Anything further, CAO?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just a few things, 2 items. One of the things that is now finalized is the pop-up offices. That's come up. We're going to be setting them up every 2 weeks, with the first one being Kermias. The plan is that we would have specific staff there. Where I can, I will be at all those pop-up offices. And it doesn't mean that I'm just sitting around waiting for questions. Once my computer starts working, I can work from anywhere. And same thing with the staff that is there. But the public will know that they will have access to regional district staff. And we're not just talking about the electoral areas. Every electoral area and municipality will eventually have a pop-up office. And the next part, I believe, is the EOC update. So I do have a Protective Services manager here to give an update of what's happened.
Okay, so
Okay.
turn it over to them. Go ahead.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So this is an update this is a follow-up to an update that we did a couple of weeks ago at the last one. So since our last update, the RDOS has had several wildfires over within the regional district. All of them have been under 1 hectare, and they've been out to within a few hours. Out at the Placer wildfire is still being worked on by BC Wildfire. The updates are coming into the EOC daily, but there's no major status update from our side. In regards to emergencies support services, we've had a couple house fires in the past few weeks here that we've had our ESS teams out and deployed, as well as the past weekend we had our EPCs out over to Tulameen days over to support with the events out there. And that event went extremely well. There was a couple little wildfires in that area, but other than that, there was no challenges or issues within the community. So that was very good, except our mobile command center broke down on the way out there. So we had to get that sorted. In regards to our EOC activation side, our EOC was activated on July 30th over to support RDCO for a brush fire that started with a vehicle fire on Highway 97 just outside of Peachland. And that grew up to 25 hectares, and it took closed off out at the connector and at the highway heading into Penticton here. So RDCO requested the RDOS and ESS in particular to support the reception center in Peachland. So the RDOS worked with Summerland and Penticton ESS. We got 7 volunteers from Summerland, 5 volunteers from Penticton, and then an EPC and myself that went out over to Peachland, supported the reception center there. We supported 64 residents in there. There was a whole bunch of dogs and animals because everybody was getting home from work or trying to evacuate. So we had alert there, which did a fantastic job. Our EOC physically here was activated for a short while until we deployed out, until we understood it was practically an ESS reception center exercise. And we just had our EPCs that stay here and support to them virtually. In regards to the response itself, it was extremely successful. It shows our partnership between the regional district and RDCO. This was the first time the regional district actually went into another regional district over to set up a reception center. Generally what occurs, there's a fire in another regional district, everybody gets sent here to Penticton or Princeton, and support is provided in the reception centers here where the volunteers are comfortable with that. They have all their equipment, they're set up with printers, they're set up with internet, they have all the tools at their physical location. So this was, this was a new scenario for us as a regional district over to head into Peachland and use an unknown area. However, we did a bang up job with the volunteers. Were absolutely fantastic, and they stood up over to it and they did great. As well as our EOC was in contact with out at the Peachland, the CAO and RDCO EOC. So other than that, that was the quick update. Again, we supported 64 families with ESS support. And that was about it for that fire and our EOC report. And we are still stood up over at a level 1. That's still our EOC. That's all I have.
Thanks for that. Any questions? Not seeing any, so back to the CAO.
Don't have a question, but Minister Boyle's administrative assistant asked me to read the following letter, which I was asked to read at yesterday's meeting in OK Falls. If I may read the letter.
Go ahead.
Your first time. Okay, so it starts out with, thank you for your email on July 22nd, 2025, inviting me to attend your community meeting on municipal incorporation scheduled for August 6, 2025. While I or a ministry representative will not be able to join the in person at this time, I recognize the community's desire for clarity and timeliness on a timely path forward towards incorporation. Since March 22nd, 2025 incorporation vote, the ministry has been working closely with the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen and the Osoyoos Indian Band to plan for the transition to municipal incorporation. This will be the first incorporation in 15 years and the first since the passage of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act in 2019. As you may be aware, on July 16, 2025, Premier David Eby announced changes to the provincial cabinet, which includes my appointment as a Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. While ministry staff will work to ensure continuity in our work, including the new municipal incorporation, we appreciate your continued patience as I am briefed on a new portfolio on this matter. I understand the urgency on this file, and I've asked my staff to schedule a brief meeting with the RDOS and the Osoyoos Indian Band to have important discussions on the next steps. That brief means a half an hour. That's what I was told. In this process, as this process unfolds, the ministry and the RDOS will provide updates to the community to ensure the voters are aware of what steps have been taken and what to expect in the weeks and months ahead. In the interim, please do not hesitate to reach out to ministry staff if you have any questions. I reached out as early as 8:30 this morning at the meeting with the province, and that's the letter.
Okay.
Nothing further.
All right, thanks. Director Bloomfield.
Yeah, that's an interesting letter, and I think that considering that this is the first incorporation since DRIPA has been in place, that there should be a little more than 30 minutes spent on the briefing, and so I would retort a reply to that with a request for added time because of that.
It's a good, valid point. Director Taylor?
I really appreciate your comments. Thank you. I concur completely. So the letter was addressed to myself. I'd sent the letter to the minister. This, to my knowledge, is the only public communication we've received on this topic in 4.5 months. So I had a meeting last night, 350 people. You know, it's taped. People can listen to it. I've tried to communicate accurately what we're being asked to look at, some of the background, why we're being asked to look at it. Again, I think the implications are huge for other municipalities. Looking around the table here, obviously not tomorrow, but you know, thin edge of the wedge and precedents and all that. And I would greatly appreciate any help that some of the other municipalities and the regional district staff and executive have been terrific. Can't ask for more. But I think nobody wanted, we're not looking for, this doesn't need to be a fight. I think we need to just be firm in stating we have needs. We understand other people have needs, but we have needs too. The municipalities in BC have needs. And it's probably going to take more than a half an hour. You're correct. And it's probably going to take more than one meeting. And it's going to take a bit of a process. And I would say an elevation in the level of staff that they have got. I wouldn't say that, I would demand that. Level of staff, expertise, experience, knowledge that's been committed to this, I don't think has been sufficient or adequate. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Nothing further from the CAO in your report? Okay, question, oh, sorry, Director Gettins.
Sorry, I just have to follow up with Director Taylor because I feel for you for this in so many ways. And it's a little bit similar, like even with Sage Mesa, you especially as a rural director, you're out there by yourself. You have a meeting of 350 people. We don't have the staff resources that a municipality has because we're so spread thin and we're such a small local government in such a vast area with so many differences. And this is just like the ultimate downloading is that you can't tax for your time. You can't tax, it's not like downloading and then taxing the citizens. This is just one director really navigating unknown, charted territory with the small rural local government. It's just so much to ask. And I know when we've been talking to provincial colleagues, staff, one comment was about the $9,100 is that's kind of typical in their world. And I'm like, what? How can that be typical in your world? But in my reality, it's people losing homes. Or how can a 30-minute meeting justify the amount of time? Because I was on your meeting last night. And that's a stressful place to be. And I find that frustrating. And I think that's got to be part of the message too. And I appreciate the comment, to give 30 minutes to something like this is, I don't know. It's just it feels dismissive. I appreciate the letter, but it feels like a dismissive and carry on, Director Taylor, and we'll watch. It's just, yeah, it's tough.
Okay. Director Holmes, go ahead.
I would say, depending what they say in that meeting, of course, but if the goalposts are being moved, if they're saying the goalposts have to be moved, I would not be afraid to ask the province then to hold another referendum so that people know exactly what they're voting for.
Well, Director Taylor?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep salamiing this thing, adding one more slice, but can we also ask, I've been told by a lawyer that really the only way that the local government act could be sort of superseded is if the premier had made a promise. So I get that from a lawyer, and that's just a street discussion. But can we ask if there's, we're learning stuff as we go here. If there has been a discussion behind the scenes, can we at least ask for some transparency on that? Because clearly, from what this lawyer said, who's not educated in this area, other than that he understands the Local Government Act, that would have some relevance on how we're proceeding now. If they've already made a commitment like that, then why? Okay, then we need to know that.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything further on this. I would just add that another hand here. Go ahead, CAO.
There is a discussion later on in camera that we need to talk about. I would recommend that this be carried at that point.
Okay. I'll hold my comments other than I'm just a little disappointed in the lack of communication from the province to the residents as this process unfolded. That's what I find really troubling about the whole thing. And we'll move on to Chair's report, which is probably one of the things I was going to report on. This is eating up a lot of staff time, that incorporation process. I've attended more meetings with the province in the last month than I think I've attended in the last 5 years. So significant. staff as well. Jim seems to be on the phone every day or at least every other day, sometimes twice a day to deal with it. So director's motions. I'll go to Director Holmes because I believe he has one.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion, and if I get a seconder, I'd like to make another motion that we waive the requirement for giving notice to the motion. So the motion would be that the RDOS supports the District of Summerland's application to collect a municipal and regional district tax at a rate of 3% within the District of Summerland.
Okay, it's moved and seconded.
Thank you. Then a motion to waive.
You'll move it, and there's all kinds of seconders. So
Good.
we'll deal with the motion to waive first. I'll just call the question on that. Everybody in favor? Thank you. Okay, any opposed? That motion carries. Now, the main motion, which was collecting of the tax, could
Right.
you give us a little bit of background?
Sure. So it's some people, it's probably better known as the hotel tax. I believe Summerland is the only municipality in the Okanagan that currently isn't collecting that tax. It's levied on guests who check into hotels, accommodation providers. It's quite a process to apply. You have to get community support. You have to get 50% of the accommodation providers in your community with 50% of the rooms and all that kind of stuff. So we've done all that. And then the government approval, then government has to approve it, and it actually has to go to cabinet. Cabinet has to approve an MRD. So it's we're a little bit under the application is in, it's all done. It's sitting on somebody's desk in Victoria, and right now it's on hold because we were told we did not get a letter of support from the RDOS. So we missed that. It was an oversight on our part. Apologies. We didn't realize that was needed. And we would, so I'm asking that we deal with it today so that we can get the process moving, because we're trying to get government to approve it by the end of the year so it can be for next year's taxes. So that's that. And all the money that we collect will be going for tourism promotion and destination marketing. So that's what it's all for.
Okay, good to know. Director Federico?
Thank you through the chair. So the district itself is collecting it and it's not going through a marketing organization?
No.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not seeing any hands. We'll call, did you have, okay. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Any other directors' motions or comment, Director Taylor?
When would you take a notice of motion?
We could do that now if you're.
Okay. Well, I'll make a notice of motion to the effect that I'll be asking RDOS to request additional funds regarding the incorporation of OK Falls. Now, I understand that, so that's my notice of motion.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that there may be work underway, and I'd be happy to withdraw that if staff come forward at a later date and say we're dealing with that. But I just wanted on the record that our people want to ensure that they've got legal funds for representation and investigation of various options.
Okay, I've seen it. CAO and then Director Klein.
I've already started the process. I recognized a long time ago that we're eating up taxpayers' funds and time. With that, I will come back to the board when I'm successful. We will start billing the province next week, going back to last year. So that's, and I've asked, the CFO has got a number that for 2024 that we needed to bill. Also, it would only be for regional district time. There's specific work that there may be a committee in OK Falls. I'm not speaking for them. It can't be for them. It has to be for work that is regional district related, including the lawyers. But I have started.
Okay, good to know. Director Coyne.
Yeah, I just wanted clarity, like on that legal part, are we talking about just any legal bills that we have, or are we talking about the legal bills for OK Falls? Because that's two different things.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So Director Taylor can maybe clarify.
I'm wanting to ensure that I, as Area D Director, have access to legal funds legal counsel relative to OK Falls Incorporation.
There's legal opinions needed here and there for questions in regards to.
And
incorporation.
my understanding is the province has provided some funding in that area already. I suspect we're going through it, and I'd like to make greater use of it.
Okay. All right. Any other directors' motions or notices of motions? Seeing no hands. Board members' verbal updates. Anything to report from your areas? Director Gettins, let's start with you.
Thank you. I actually just sent this over to staff earlier. Maybe you didn't get it this morning, but I just wanted to get an update on the carts and the swap out of the garbage carts. I think that that was going to happen, but like the last week or something, anybody was going to swap them out, and then changeovers after June 1st are going to come, and I'm just getting a few questions on that. So an update and next step for citizens who are still waiting, please.
Okay. Go ahead, staff.
Yes, good morning. So IPL is the contractor that provided the carts and did the rollout. As we discussed last board meeting, after the initial rollout, there was a number of omissions, corrections, so on and so forth that that needed to be addressed. They came back last week to make all those corrections, and they ended up having to be here a little bit longer than they anticipated. They worked through the weekend, and they have now left again. So this week, we are now aware of, since they've left, there's about 25 or so that still need to be addressed. So we're working on those final pieces right now. That will be addressed through Waste Connections. And then any further change outs, some people got a cart and then decided that they want a larger one, or they got a yard waste cart and decided we don't need it. For those, they contact our team, and then through the rest of this month and into next month, depending on the request, we'll be addressing those. Just want to say a big thank you again to the public for their patience. It's a big change. It's a big process that we've worked through. A big thank you to staff. They've done a great job of handling many demands. I'm told we're down to about 25 or so calls now that we have left to return. So we've made a lot of good progress. There's still some coming in, but definitely headed in the right direction and approaching the finish line. So.
Okay, thanks for that update. Director Coyne Senior, you have a hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to let everybody know we had to call it a celebration here a week and a half ago or so with the regional district was there. Sean and Deborah were both there. Town of Princeton was there. I was there. Upper and Lower Smilkmead Indian bands were there, and BC Wildfire was there. And we had the entire incident command team from BC Wildfire attending, and also the local RAP attack group from Princeton and Merritt as well. And we were basically celebrating the fact that for the first time in known history, I'll use that word because I don't know any further back, but the regional district, the town of Princeton, BC Wildfire, everybody worked together on this thing in a very, very cooperative manner. There's been such a change in BC Wildfire as far as keeping people in the loop as to what's going on compared to what there was 7 years ago. And we've been working very hard to get these relationships built. And it was very, very refreshing with the new, I'm going to say the new management within the RDOS's open cooperation and a lot more open communication lines, and exactly the same thing with BC Wildfire. They have been amazing to work with this year. They have people there to, I forget what the word I'm trying to use. Their communications person she was amazing. She was there if you wanted to ask questions. She was more than willing to answer. The incident commander invited us all out to come to the camp, and whenever we had questions, just to come and ask, because they were more than willing to talk, which is a brand new approach to wildfire incidents. So anyways, and it was all coordinated by Ed Atkinson from the town of Princeton. If you recall, he's the guy that we agreed to pay a third of his wages last year in budget. And he's just done an amazing job in putting this all together. And it was just a really, really great occasion. So it was kudos to everybody involved. Thank you.
Good news update. Thanks for that. Go to the other director, Coyne.
Yeah, just along those lines, I just want to thank Sean and the regional district for working with us, with Ed, and to get support out for Tulamane over Tulamane days. It's just another example of how this relationship is working. Sean came over, we had a meeting in my council chambers with BC Ambulance, and we decided the best course of action was to try to get an ambulance out in Tulamane for Tulamane days. Anybody who's never been to Tulamane days, it's a huge event. We'll just leave it at that. And but having the regional district in the community was a breath of fresh air, and the cooperation this summer has been just over the moon great. So thanks for all that.
Good news. Director Federico.
Yes, thank you through the chair. So the Naramata Fund Society has put up a sculpture in Manitou Park in dedication to our farm workers who have been integral to the agricultural industry in our area. So they used to host an annual farm workers dinner, but with the reduction in numbers in the community who've been helping, they are no longer hosting it, so they had some extra funding. So they thought that this would be a great way to recognize them. So I strongly encourage on a Wednesday night during our farmers market to go down to Manitou and enjoy the farmers market and check out our new sculpture.
Interesting. Anything further to report from your areas or municipalities? Not seeing any hands, so we'll move on to a closed session here. That in accordance with section 91C and 2B of the community charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of labor relations or other employee relations and the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between municipality, the provincial government or the federal government, or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government, or both, and a third party. So looking for a motion to go in camera. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. I'll give Adam a moment to thumbs up. We're ready to go. Thanks, Adam. Okay, we will move into community services. So I'll turn it over to Director Monteith.
Thank you. I'd like to call for a motion to adopt the agenda. Nope, sorry. I don't think we have quorum.
Might need to wait a second.
Okay.
We need one more in the room. Yeah.
You gotta have your cameras on.
The folks online will need to switch on a camera if you're counting. Perfect. Okay. We're good, Director Monteith.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. First, second, all in favor? Thank you. Item B, moving on to a delegation to the CAO, please.
Thank you, Chair. Bart Wallman is the Government Relations Manager for BC Transit, and he's here to provide the committee with a BC Transit update to the committee. And is he online? I will forward it to him. Bart?
Hello, can everybody hear?
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, great, thank you. Sorry, I'm on a different webcam than I was anticipating, so I just need 1 second to kind of recalibrate myself. But I am Bart Wallman. I'm BC Transit's Manager of Government Relations for the Okanagan region. Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me today. The goal of today's presentation and hopefully subsequent discussion is for members of the board to have a better understanding of BC Transit's activities in the region, what we're trying to accomplish, maybe kind of refamiliarize yourselves a little bit with the Princeton Route 50, and just be kind of open for general Q&A as we head into budget planning and our next year of service. With that, I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, my apologies. I'm not particularly familiar with WebEx, and things are just in a slightly different spot than what I was anticipating.
Totally understand that comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Not the first?
Correct.
Excellent.
I think staff's working with you. Adam, are you helping?
Oh, no, I'm just having trouble bringing up the correct presentation tab.
Staff can bring it up for you if you'd like.
Sure, yeah, let's do that. That'd be better, actually.
So you just need to let staff know, Adam, when you'd like to proceed with the next slide.
Perfect. Sorry about that. It's having trouble recognizing multiple presentations, so.
All right, we see it now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Gilbert, I won't be insulted. Not the first person I've seen sleep through one of my presentations, so. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm Bart Wallman. I'm BC Transit's Manager of Government Relations in the region. So my portfolio kind of spans up through from Salmon Arm to Vernon, down through the Kelowna Regional Transit System, and then into the Okanagan, South Okanagan Similkameen Transit System. Next slide, please. So who is BC Transit? So we are a provincial crown corporation. We are responsible for planning, funding, and operating transit throughout the province outside of Metro Vancouver. Metro Vancouver is the territory and responsibility of TransLink. So we've got about 1.5 million British Columbians that kind of fall within our territories and fall within all of our systems. We work with 59 local governments across British Columbia. We contract out with management companies to provide our service. We work with nonprofits, public organizations, and I've got to really say that the South Okanagan Similkameen is a really good example of that kind of tapestry of service and collaboration that we interact with daily. You've got a relatively seamless kind of transit system, and I think a lot of that is really just reemphasized by the strength of our model. So in our model, BC Transit is essentially a contracted service provider. We allocate provincial funding. We provide consolidated planning, financial management, procurement, training, safety. We operate and manage a capital budget and lease our infrastructure to you. And we're really trying to be your best transportation service within the region. In this kind of tripartite ecosystem that we work in, we've got BC Transit, we've got the province. The province sets the general kind of public policy direction and provides a generous operating grant of about 50% for our capital and operating budgets. And then we have the local governments, in this case, the regional district. You're responsible for the local share of costs, which we'll get into a little bit later in a little more detail, as well as dictating what your overall kind of planning agenda is. You approve fares, specific routes, and et cetera. And really, the collaboration between the three allows us to punch a little bit over our weight in terms of the coverage we provide, the level of expertise. And it's really important to us that we continue to work with both staff and elected officials to ensure that we are providing a service that is efficient on our end, but that is responsive on your end. And I think that you really know your constituents the best. It's been a real pleasure working with Matt Weller at the district recently. really kind of tidying up both administratively and from a service perspective how transit's operating in the region, and I'm really looking forward to continuing that. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it's the South Okanagan Similkameen Transit System. It's an interesting system. You've got 4 local government partners, the Regional District, Penticton, Summerland, and Princeton, all working kind of together through BC Transit to provide what we think is the best service possible, the best kind of front end service possible for our riders, which is a seamless transit system. We've got one fare type. You're able to transfer between systems quite easily. We have one rider's guide. In other areas of the province, you start to cross jurisdictional boundaries, and it can get a little bit fuzzy, but in the South Okanagan, things are very simple for our riders. Next slide, please. So now we're get into kind of the service types that are offered, and with the exception of on-demand, we actually see all the various service types offered in the system. This chat is going to be more focused on the regional district services and routes rather than including Penticton, Summerland, and the Princeton in-town service. But what we have is we have conventional transit, so that's what most people kind of picture when they think about transit. That's a bus pulling up to a bus stop, people getting on. It's got a fixed time, it's got a fixed stop. And that's kind of our bread and butter service. That gets your highest, rides per hour. It's your cheapest in terms of dollars per hour. And really that's like the backbone of our system. The second piece is custom transit, otherwise known as Handy Dart. The regional district doesn't offer custom transit. That's only offered in Penticton, but that's a door-to-door service for folks who are unable to use our conventional system. It's not kind of an either or component. We don't want to say that someone is either a conventional rider or a Handy Dart rider. Ideally, someone who either permanently or temporarily can't use conventional transit can switch back and forth between the two. Sometimes, a ride may be to a spot that's too far away in terms of the final destination from a bus stop, or the weather's too inclement, or et cetera. So really, we're trying to make all of our services kind of fit together really nicely. Then we have paratransit and on-demand. So paratransit is not something most people have heard of, but really what that is it's essentially kind of like a blend between custom transit and conventional. So often in rural communities or on longer intercity trips, we will allow the bus to deviate slightly from the route. If folks kind of call in ahead of time and say, hey, I'm going to be a block up or a block left, or et cetera, we can do a little bit of kind of on-demand transit, but do it the old-fashioned way over the phone. So we don't use that too much, particularly as the services that the regional district is providing are becoming more and more popular. The slant is more to reliability than flexibility. That's a continuum that we always are trying to balance, but particularly on long haul runs, even a slight route deviation of 5 or 10 minutes can mean 5 or 10 minutes more standing on the side of the highway, at a transit stop and waiting for a bus that you hope is coming. So we are kind of transitioning a little bit away from paratransit. And I'm going to talk about on-demand, which is essentially like a digital version of paratransit on the next slide. It's something that we're piloting in Kelowna, and then we are potentially looking to roll out in other areas of the province as well. And the last piece I want to mention is health connections. So health
Excuse
connection.
me, Bart.
Oh, sorry.
We have a question in the room. Do you want to take questions now?
Yeah, if you guys would prefer that, I'm more than happy to take questions as I go.
Thank you, Director Roberts.
Thank you through the chair. I just wanted to ask about the paratransport or versus on demand, because I know in the Similkameen, I think it's the one place, for instance, I think we've got a couple mobile home or RV communities along Highway 3 that sometimes the bus pulls over and stops, but also I think to get into Costin, it was like a call ahead and they would go to Costin also for stopping in Olalla.
Yes.
Those types, would that be considered the paratransport transit? Sorry.
Yeah, that's essentially paratransit. So for those type of stops, yeah, you would call ahead. We've got a number. We've got a number listed in the rider's guide. You can say, yeah, I would like to catch it. We have certain kind of stops designated as paratransit, so it's not really like it'll just go anywhere. But that is an example of paratransit, yes.
Continue, please.
Thank you. And yeah, please just flag if you have questions. I can't really see if there are any. So, and the last piece is Health Connections. So Health Connections is not a unique service. You can't really tell a bus is a Health Connection bus. But what Health Connections is essentially a partnership or a funding partnership from the Interior Health Authority. So they provide in the entire province about $1.6 million a year to local governments to provide additional service that may not be provided normally. Regional District receives around $90,000 a year to kind of offset the cost of some of the services. It's dedicated towards 1 day of service on the Route 50. So you can just say that Mondays on the Route 50 are paid for entirely by the Interior Health Authority. And then we've got a trip a week paid for on the 40 and the 70, which are your Osoyoos Penticton and Penticton Kelowna trips. So they're a really strong funding partner. They really do value the use of the system. It does get a lot of folks where they need to go. I've been to the Interior Health Authority's kind of headquarters in terms of and their dispatch for Health Connections, and they're just trying to kind of route people into the right method of transportation to get around the province. It kind of starts at the very top with like an air ambulance, and then it scales down in terms of urgency and medical need. And we're really happy that BC Transit can be a solution for them, but then also we're able to piggyback additional service for as regular commuters or travelers who just need to go to a different town. So, like I said, a very valuable and quiet partner in all of this is the Interior Health Authority. Next slide, please. So speaking of on-demand, so I mentioned on-demand, which used to be kind of called digital on-demand, and then we decided that, it's 2025, we probably shouldn't market things as being digital as though that's unique anymore. So we kicked this off in Kelowna's Crawford neighborhood last April. The reason we chose the Crawford neighborhood in Kelowna was for a few reasons. Number one, its shape is that essentially it has 2 exit points, and then it's kind of shaped like a leaf. The bus would drive around, go through the neighborhood a little bit, but it wasn't particularly well used. It had some steep hills, it has snow, it has some spotty cell phone coverage, and it had low ridership. So we thought it was a really interesting kind of testing ground that could simulate a whole bunch of different areas in the province at once. And what we did is we originally implemented kind of a hybrid. We had a fixed route service, just doing laps around the neighborhood in the morning and the afternoon to accommodate for commuters. And then we moved into kind of full digital on demand, which is that you download an app, you tell the bus, I'd like to be picked up at one of about 150 digital stops. So the whole neighborhood was mapped out. Anywhere that was safe for a bus to stop was kind of tagged as a digital location that you can stop. So not right at your house, but usually no more than 100 meters or so away. And then you can essentially call a ride, just like an Uber. It would give you an estimated time of arrival, and it would coordinate internally a schedule and a map for our driver to drive, and people have been loving it. We've seen a relatively steady increase in ridership. And of course, we're going from low to moderate ridership. Folks are getting picked up in generally about 15 minutes or so, and we're seeing high satisfaction. So we are looking into now like the business case for potentially doing a phase 2 pilot elsewhere in the province. We're going to continue to try to break it. We'll go to worse topography, worse cell phone coverage, different types of areas, different demographic areas, and we're going to look into what that looks like. And then there'll potentially be the opportunity to roll out in a year or so as just a standard service option, digital on demand. So we're going to continue to kind of work with your staff to make sure that they are up to date on where that pilot, including phase 2, is going. And then if that's something that the board and the regional district is interested in, we can certainly investigate that. That said, I just want to flag that it's probably, if everything goes right, the option to sign up for digital on demand is still probably more than a year away.
Thank you. We have 2 questions, both from Summerland. So Director Barkwell and then Director Holmes.
Maybe I have the same questions. You said Handy Dart's only available in Penticton. what's the possibility of getting it in Summerland? I mean, we have an elderly population. Getting to appointments is a big issue. Sometimes we're spread out, something happens and you temporarily can't drive, or maybe you're in the downtown area and you take a taxi or something. But yeah, and then beyond Handy Dart, the bottom one on your list there, what was it called? The Health Connections one. So
yes.
Does that assure that anybody who's, under medical care can make arrangements to get to the appointments or the hospital? What exactly is that service? Yeah.
Sure, Al, thank you for the questions. I'll answer the first question first regarding how you would add Handy Dart service to Summerland. So we have what's called a transit improvement process that we run annually. We work with local governments and staff to identify transit priorities. That can be conventional, it can be Handy Dart, etc. We then do essentially provide you with a quote for service. We evaluate whether or not you have excess capacity in your fleet or you'd require new buses. We work with staff, and then we consolidate all of the requests from around the province, run those through a multiple account evaluation in order to prioritize them. Based on the available provincial funding, we're then able to grant or approve a certain number of those, and then we'd work to initiate. So if you'd like to investigate bringing Handy Dart to Summerland, I'd be more than happy to sit down with your staff and kind of look at what that would look like. It would likely be like an initial small-scale feasibility study on our end, nothing too major, but something that would figure out what the challenges would be and where the opportunity is. And then we could consider bringing that to council. It'd probably be about a year from now that we would be ready to provide a quote and begin to implement. But like I said, I'd be happy to follow up with your staff on it.
Any follow-up, Director Barkwell? Okay.
And then to answer your second question on Health Connections. So Health Connections is kind of hidden. It's running as a regular service. People can get on and off without even knowing it's a Health Connections funded route. However, we do have a phone number that the Interior Health Authority uses and riders can use in order to essentially book a ride, and that'll guarantee them a spot on the bus. They're not often full right now, so it's not thankfully the call-in option is not used as much as it could be, perhaps in some other areas where the bus could potentially be full and you need to make that trip. But it's not something that is not something that's kind of visible to a rider who doesn't know about it.
We have a follow-up question.
So do you have some demonstrated medical need for the Health Connections service?
Yeah, you don't have to prove that you need it. You can just call the number and say, I have a medical appointment, and they will ensure that there is space on the bus for you. But it's not an on-request service. It's just part of the regular bus routing.
Thank you. Director Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. Are you sure we don't already have Handy Dart in Summerland?
I believe you just have an on-request service. That said, if it is being dispatched up into Summerland, I'm not acutely aware of it.
Oh, okay. So my question was regarding the digital on-demand. I'm just wondering if any analysis has been done on the cost of the on-demand service, of providing that versus the cost of providing a conventional route.
Yeah, the costs are actually something that we're analyzing right now. We are just in the middle of our negotiations for procurement, so I can't speak directly to the costs, but fairly eminently we'll be able to do that. I'm sorry.
But do we know, are they way out of whack, or are they similar, or I mean, is it...
they're similar, yeah.
And Director Gettins.
Thank you, Chair. Just to the Chair, I wanted just to put it out there again that the last time the on-demand pilot was presented to the regional district was back in 2020. And I had put my hand up for Area F, which is in Greater Westminster, that we would like to be the next on trial when expanding it to the South Okanagan. We've got a small community service, kind of meets all your criteria, and half the community is not served by the transit because there's not enough hours. So that's been a conversation that since 2020, and I think our staff recently followed up with you early this year about expanding it. So I'm just making this a public request again to please consider Greater West Bench so we can have this service meet the needs and get to the houses in the community.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely appreciate that. And you're right, staff have been advocating for the West Bench area. I'd be happy to sit down once we're through our procurement and we've launched our phase 2 publicly, and we can perhaps get a little bit more into the details and into the grit of what it would look like in the West Bench. We can sit down with one of our planners as well.
And we have another question from Director Gilbert.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And Bart, your presentation never put me to sleep. I'm always pleasant when you get to come and show up, because I usually get to probably criticize the amount of funding that we get for transit in our area. But my question today is in regards to the on-demand. What are the hours of the on-demand that you currently have in the pilot in Kelowna?
I believe it's from 7 a.m. until about 7 as well.
All right, thank you. Seeing no more questions, if you want to continue on with your presentation.
Well, thank you. And I can just answer that properly. It is 7 to 7 with the last booking at 6:30. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So I mentioned the Okanagan Civil Community Transit System has a slew of routes. We've got Penticton local routes. We have routes in Summerland. We have some semi-local service in Princeton, but the following 8 routes are routes that are governed and paid for by the RDOS. So we have these broken into various what we call kind of business units. Just conceptually and from an accounting perspective, they kind of make sense. They're often using the same buses, so they're lumped together. And it creates some difficulties in terms of providing really granular data, but we're able to kind of walk through today what these services look like, what exactly is kind of happening on the road. And ideally, by the end of the next half dozen slides or so, you'll kind of have an idea of like how many buses are on the road, where they're going, why service is running, X number of times in this area, because it's also tied in with a bus that's gone over here, and just kind of what the overall logistics of your system look like, as well as talking about cost per ride and some other interesting metrics. And I'll also highlight that we're going to discuss the Route 50 because congratulations, it's now under the jurisdiction of the RDOS. Next slide, please. Next. So the first is our Okanagan Civil Community Paratransit. So this is a business unit, again, that we call it, that comprises the number 10, the Naramata Penticton, the 11 West Bench, number 20, the Okanagan Falls Penticton route, and the number 21 Okanagan Falls local. And I think before I get into our rides and cost per hour and a few other things, I just want to mention that we've gone through quite a bit of change over the last year in terms of how we are accounting for ridership and counting rides. We have changed service providers in terms of our digital customer tracking through automatic person counters. We've adjusted in some ways some of our financial modeling, where we take the automatic person counters and our total net revenue and adjust for any kind of gaps there. So year over year ride comparisons are tough, and we're really going to kind of stake our baseline to this year, and then next year, hopefully when I'm back, we can talk about your year over year ridership growth in a more accurate way. So that's why I've taken out previous years. I think there's a little bit of apples to oranges comparisons that could happen, but generally, and I think this is an appreciable trend, we've seen fairly modest, but still above population growth increases in ridership on almost all of the routes that we're going to talk about today, which I think is really great. We always want to tie that into just ensuring that the use of transit is growing faster than your community. So on these routes, we've got routes. Sorry. We see just about 11,000 rides. The bulk of those rides are on the number 10 and the number 20. But that's also where the bulk of the service is provided. We see about 2.8 rides per hour, which is low, and we see relatively high net cost per ride. On all these slides, we're going to be looking at, we're going to have rides, we're going to have the total cost. So that's kind of the gross operating cost. That's the cost that it costs BC Transit to provide the service, and the total cost per hour, which is equivalent to most other transit systems. You'll see the RDOS's costs, and that is net of your revenue through advertising and fares. It's net of the provincial subsidy, and then any Health Connections grants as well. So your net cost per ride, for the subsidy that the RDOS provides for these 4 services, is about $26 per ride. So it is quite high relative to other services that we do see, which indicates to us that there may be some potential for some improvement, and for us to take a look at why that is. Is it just the population base that's served? Is it some of the other gaps that were identified in this meeting? Or is it something else? Next slide, please. So the Route 10, if you can go back by one, thank you. So the Route 10 runs from Naramata to Penticton. That runs Monday to Friday, and a little bit on Saturdays. It's really nice. We're able to offer 5 round trips every day. We start at 6:40, so it's good for commuting. The last one back is also at 5:20. Runs essentially leaves Penticton or leaves Naramata every couple of hours. And we are also able to offer 3 round trips every Sunday. It's about a half-hour trip each way, and it essentially just kind of goes back and forth. The Route 11 is another kind of Monday to Friday 3 trip per day service. It is about a 20-minute trip, terminates at Cherry Lane, and it stops at Sandstone Crescent and Piper Lane, or Sandpiper Lane, sorry. And those two really do kind of not necessarily work together, but they are, I think, a really integral part of pulling folks into Penticton. It is a little bit of a run on the West Bench, but it does serve quite a large kind of and somewhat isolated population along that route. Next slide, please. The next is the Route 20. So that we see about, we talked about 11,000 rides annually elsewhere, or for those 4 systems. The Route 20 comprises about 5,000 rides. Runs Monday to Friday, again, 5 trips a day, terminating at Cherry Lane about half an hour away. And then the Route 21, which operates 5 kind of round trips per day, which are total loops within the community. And you'll notice those loops are kind of timed around the times that the 20 is actually in the community. So it's another example of just a nice coordination between using one bus to serve both in community and out of community needs. The in community use though is only about 500 per year, or a ride and a half a day, but it provides a good service, I think, for folks, and we could potentially advertise that a little bit more. Moving on to the next slide, please. So this is the Osoyoos Paratransit. This operates in a very similar manner, although over a longer stretch than the previous routes. We see about 13,000 rides, a total cost per hour of about 152. The regional district's costs are $176,000 annually for about 5 rides per hour. Your net cost per ride is $14, which is quite good for an interregional service like this that also includes a local service. The breakdown between usage is about 12,000 rides on the Route 40 component, and about 1,000 on the 41, which is the local loop. You can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so as you can see here, it's 2 return trips per day. The bus starts in Penticton. They deadhead to Osoyoos, do their first in-town loop, drive back to Penticton, and then they do that. Then they come back to Osoyoos, do another in-town loop, back to Penticton, and that's it for the day. So that bus driver goes from Penticton and back 3 times a day, gets to tour Osoyoos twice. It's really kind of a great route. I think they all know each other fairly well. And again, it's providing an excellent service in the region, and something that we get a lot of good feedback on. We've been able to make some improvements along that route as well, just in terms of our timing. And we've been kind of retiming and rescheduling and making minor tweaks that are probably not super noticeable to the public, but hopefully just provide a little bit of extra.
Thank you, Bart. We have a couple.
Reliability.
Thank you. We have a couple questions now. I actually have one real quick. The Caledon Community Hall stop, I don't think it's at the community hall. It's been kind of diagonal to the fire hall, which is up the hill from the community hall. So I don't know if this is your advertising information, but I don't think it's up to date for Caledon, which is an on-call stop. And I'll pass it over to Director Roberts.
Thank you. I will double check to make sure that I didn't pull this out of an old rider's guide.
I thank you through the chair. Just a quick question. You're saying you deadhead from Penticton in the morning. Is there an option for people like, let's say, I could say Caledon or OK Falls, somebody wants to head into Osoyoos and then it does a loop around town, they can go right back to their own community since it's already doing that. Is that an option in regards to it being a paratransit, or is it just strictly you got a deadhead straight to Osoyoos? Thanks.
I will need to look into that. I can't remember offhand if the deadheading is done in a private vehicle and the bus resides for the most part, aside from weekends, in Osoyoos. But I will look into whether or not it's possible to do that original trip.
Thank you. Director Taylor?
I was going to wait for the end, but if you stop now, you've got stat breakouts for certain routes, but not others. So I guess I'm wondering, I was kind of shocked to hear the number of riders on the, I don't know whether it was the 20 or the 20, I think 21. Can we get those breakouts for that route, both those routes?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it would be helpful for me anyway, if I had similar, like that set of stats for maybe all 4 routes that you were talking about, just so I can get some comparisons.
Yeah, absolutely. I can provide the breakdown to staff.
Thank you. Continue on, please.
Oh, thanks. I'm just making notes while I...
Sorry, I have Director Gilbert with a question.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Just a question. Just wondering the rationale of why oh, never mind. I see that it does go to Cherry Lane. I was just wondering the rationale of why it goes to Martin Wade. I realized because it doesn't show Cherry Lane on the map, but I do see that it's in the timing point location, which is the Cherry Lane Mall. I was just wondering why it doesn't go there, but I see that it does, so that's great.
Yeah, just a scale issue. Everything goes to Cherry Lane essentially.
Thank you. I think that's all with the questions right now.
Thank you. If we can go to the next slide. So this is the Princeton paratransit route, and I'm going to apologize that there's an error in this slide that overstated the total costs. So the total costs for the Princeton paratransit, which is the Princeton to Penticton run, are $144,000 per year, which reduces your total cost per hour to about $115,000. This run is heavily subsidized as well, or heavily partnered with the Interior Health Authority. So the local cost for that service, net of that contribution and revenue, is about $44,000. So that drops your net cost per ride down to $10, which is a much more kind of reasonable amount. So sorry for any eyebrows that got raised there. That was captured kind of late last night.
Thanks. We have a question from Director Coyne.
With the transfer over to the regional district, does Interior Health continue to pay that percentage?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's the contract or the contribution agreement between Interior Health and Princeton will just be transferred to the regional district, and they've been made aware, and it'll be included in next year's contract that they have with BC Transit. Next slide, please. So the Route 50, which is the Princeton to Penticton route, and this is independent of the in-town on-request service that Princeton has, runs 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is one trip per day back and forth. Departs Princeton at 7 a.m. and then departs Penticton in the afternoon. We unfortunately don't have Sunday or Saturday service, but this is another route that we've been really working hard on making more reliable. So we have been including timing points throughout the route. So generally we'd have stops, but not necessarily timing points. So a stop is kind of plus or minus 5 or 10 minutes. A timing point is something that we expect the bus to be at on time. And by having, we think, less irregular on request stops along the way and more regular timing points, we're actually going to see quite a benefit to customers, because really, on long haul routes where if you miss the bus, the next one doesn't come for potentially 2 days, like reliability is really number one. So part of that is a recent adjustment that we are making in September, which is to no longer do the on request pull out into Coston, which was costing us about 20 minutes per trip, and which was causing us to have to extend the trip times a little bit unreasonably. But in lieu of that, we have implemented a new stop at the Similkameen Rec Center, which has been really, really well embraced by the rec center and other folks there. And hopefully we're going to be able to build that into something that's not necessarily a community hub, but a well-known kind of departure and arrival point for folks in Carameus.
Director Roberts? No, sorry, Director Bush.
Hi. Did you say you're cutting out the trip to Coston altogether?
So the trip to Coston was an on-demand or on-request stop. It was very infrequently used, and when it was used, it was often booked and not attended to. So it was causing pretty significant delays on the route. We have done some engagement with folks and users. They're generally being driven to that stop, so they'll be driven hopefully a little bit farther down the road to the Okanagan-Similkameen stop, or the Similkameen Rec Center stop, and then that'll be able to provide the service that is being provided today.
So does this mean that Area B doesn't have to pay towards the system anymore?
I cannot answer that.
Sorry, to the CAO.
Area B is part of the service area establishment, so the answer is yes.
Alrighty, continue, please.
Thank you. And then the South Okanagan Connector. I had the pleasure of riding that a few weeks ago. I spent a week in Soyuz on holidays with my family, and rather than renting a car to get from the airport, I took the bus. It was great. It was a new bus. It was all the seats were full, but it was felt relatively spacious. If you've never taken it over the bridge to Kelowna, it's quite neat. It feels like you're on a boat. You can't see the bridge itself. You just see water. And yeah, it was great. I'm really happy to have it. It's personally saved me a couple $100. And I think from the folks that I talked to on the bus, they're all really, really appreciative of it. It's well used. You have about 21,000 rides a year. Your total costs are $262,000. Your riders per hour at about 7 probably is a little bit lower in the winter, higher in the summer. And your cost per ride, again, at $12 per hour is relatively comparable to other systems of the same size and the same distance. Next slide, please. So this is another Monday to Friday service. It does 4 trips. It is great because it goes through so many different communities. Folks in Summerland, Peachland, West Bank, West Kelowna, and Kelowna can use it relatively seamlessly. It does a nice loop through Penticton as well. It doesn't offer Saturday or Sunday service, but it does offer a pretty good service span. Leaves Penticton just before 6 a.m. And the latest arrival in Penticton is 5, so people can do a day trip to Kelowna depending on the timing of their appointments or needs. And at the last departure or the last arrival in Penticton is 6:30. So I think it really services that well. We've also designed, and we will always ensure that your other regional routes, as best we can, will interact well with this. So we don't want to have the Route 40 or the Route 50 ever arriving too late to catch the Route 70. It's a long trip in one day, but it is an option for folks.
Thank you. I have a question from Director Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I remember originally when this route was introduced, it didn't stop at West Bank, West Kelowna, and Peachland because they weren't contributing financially. And then later, Peachland came in and they were contributing. So I just want to confirm, I didn't realize it stopped at West Bank and West Kelowna. And so are we getting financial contributions from them now?
I would have to defer that question to staff for any bilateral contributions you are getting from other parties.
We have an agreement in place with Peachland. There's nothing in place with West Bank or West Kelowna. My understanding is that the majority of people at that stop are alighting, not getting onto the bus because they have their own internal services. I used to use the Route 70 service in my previous employment, and most people, no one got on at West Bank on that journey. So I think it'd be hard to establish an agreement knowing that the utilisation would be low from their communities.
Yeah, and if I could tack on to Matt's comments as well. Yeah, the usage is low, and there are more convenient buses available that will get you from those exchanges to Queensway Exchange. That said, we don't preclude folks from using it. Usage in Peachland, just for instance, though, is also about 1 or 2 boardings and alightings per day. So fairly minor usage. Okay, and moving on to future priorities. I front-loaded future priorities a little bit with the on-demand, if you can head to the next slide. But this is just a reminder that we do have a South Okanagan-Similkameen Transit future action plan. So this was developed a few years ago. It is a fairly kind of comprehensive laundry list of potential expansions that were identified as potentially having some value in the region. The regional district routes identified, about 20 different potential expansion ideas. I'd encourage folks to kind of take a look at that, and I'd be happy to circulate the link after this presentation. It does have a lot of different options, and very similar to the process that I discussed regarding new handy-dart service in Summerland. We would just undergo kind of an annual planning, discussion, costing, and approval process for these expansions. And if the regional district is ever looking to add new service, we'd be very happy to sit down and start to put our heads together and think about how to prioritize what your priorities are. But that said, as I mentioned before, that does need to come from the regional district. And if there's appetite for expansion, we're always happy to talk about it. And if the focus is just on improving the current service that we have or optimizing the current service that we have, we're more than happy to do that as well. So there's nothing on the books for new service, but like I said, just a plug for the Transit Future Action Plan. And with that, my presentation is over. I hope I haven't taken up too much of your time today and that there's been some value in kind of just a bit of a refresher course. I'm happy to answer further questions.
To the directors, any other questions? Director Gilbert.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And I have actually a few questions in regards to some of the services. My first one though is, how can the regional district and the municipalities can go about possibly getting a pro pass like we see in Kamloops and Victoria? Because I know that we have a lot of government service, a lot of BC government employees who work in Penticton, but a lot live in Falls, Caledon, Summerland, and even down to Oliver and probably into Karamia. So, is there, would be, is there appetite for BC Transit to, maybe send out a survey to BC government employees to see if they'd be willing to, take the bus in and if they had that pro pass there. Even to, is that pro pass then tacked onto that, is there a possibility that the ProPass can be, you know, partnered with the municipalities like Penticton? Because I know that we also have employees that don't live in the city of Penticton who live in other communities, but getting them to try to bolster that ridership and getting people to use the transit more often.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Through the chair, yeah, we would be more than happy to discuss ProPass and its usage. It's a revenue tool that gives you, at a little bit of a discount, some guaranteed revenue from users. Short answer is yeah, we'd be more than happy to. I don't know if we're able to do a formal survey, or that would be better to come from the regional district of the government employees, but I'd be more than happy to. With UMO, we've got some other interesting kind of fare options as well that could potentially come into play. We have things like the Eco Pass, which is the ability for developers, let's say, or large event organizers to, at a discount, buy transit passes and hand those out. Again, kind of gives you a little bit of guaranteed revenue at while providing a slight discount. So yeah, I think the short answer is I'd be more than happy to look into that.
So just to be clear, it'd have to be RDOS would have to look into kind of pushing for that to get that ProPass similar to Victoria and Kamloops into our system.
Yeah, we have the infrastructure to deliver a ProPass. We could do a ProPass pretty quickly. I don't know that we have the capacity or authority to kind of go out and execute or sell the ProPass to the users.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have another question if there's no one else in the room that has a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is a question. Yeah, thanks through the chair. So another question is Route 40 that kind of goes through, and maybe this is for all the routes too. Is there that potential of teaming up with? I know that we're servicing our residents in our regional district to go, but I think there's an opportunity to work with tourism organizations to better connect the community by getting tourists on those buses to make those stops and all of our for the tours. I know that we have wine touring companies, but I think there's an opportunity to have buses stop off in kind of those centers of towns and getting more tourists on it, especially during the summertime.
Thank you. Yeah, noted. And I'd be happy to look into what the implications would be of that. We are looking at additional stops around Oliver. But I think actually servicing Oliver could be interesting. I could look into it. I know the 40 timing is tight, so any adjustments made to that or any kind of additional deviations would have impacts to the kind of the start and end times for the service. But yeah, happy to dig in.
Thank you. We have a question from Director Frederico.
Well, thank you to the chair. I did just send Mr. Weller an email about this, but so I'm Naramata, so Route 10, which appears to be popular, but very, I think, underutilized to the potential it could be. So because we have a bus and we have the infrastructure already, is there opportunity to turn it into more of an on-demand system or a hybrid that could have better time and usage with what we currently have?
So I'm just looking at it for a second here. I think conceivably it is fairly tight in terms of its current turnaround time. There's not a lot of gap between its arrival and departures between Penticton and Naramata. But I think it's certainly conceivable, and I'd be happy to kind of lump that in with our look at what on-demand could do in the region. I would recommend not immediately or in the near term deviating to that phone call on request service, because again, it does tend to erode your standard users, your commuters, et cetera, because the bus becomes slightly more unreliable at the expense of being more available. But with digital on demand, that calculus may change.
And I see Mr. Weller has a comment as well.
Thank you. Through the chair, just an update for the board in terms of the review of the regional transit services that the RDOS holds, that's being undertaken and will be presented towards the end of this year, and working in hand with BC Transit to give that data, just to provide a more detailed oversight of what it looks like, then also potentially some recommendations on things to consider for the future for changes, whether there's increase in frequency for routes, but then also looking at some of those expansion items in the future transit plan. So they'll be coming later this year.
Thank you. Any other questions? Director Gilbert.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And this is the last question I have, and this is in regards to the Route 70. You know, and I guess like my question was, you know, I guess both for RDOS staff and for BC Transit is if there's a possibility that there could be a stronger partnership between the Regional District of Central Okanagan and the RDOS in paying for that Route 70, because you know at the end of the day I think that Route 70 benefits Kelowna a lot because you're reducing the amount of cars that have to go over there. And we heard a presentation from Councillor Lovegrove up in Kelowna in regards to trying to put a train connect, you know, basically the valley. So you know, and what I've kind of pitched to him is saying you gotta, you know, this increased ridership on the 70. So I was wondering if there's a possibility of getting a partnership between RDCO and RDOS to increase the service of the Route 70, because I think it benefits both the South Okanagan, but also benefits the RDCO, because try to go across that bridge at 7 o'clock in the morning to Kelowna, and you could take a nap for 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've noted that down. That would be something that RDOS staff would have to discuss with the various partners along the route, including West Kelowna and the city of Kelowna, if they were looking for any type of financial contribution, either for current service or as part of the transit expansion.
Thank you. I see Mr. Weller has a comment.
Yes, through the chair. To add to that, we'd be happy to consider that for the strategic priority list for 2026 to start that conversation with RDCO.
And thank you. Oh, Director Bush.
I'm just wondering if Cawson could have a steady route instead of on-call route, then that way the time would be consistent all the time.
No, thank you through the chair. Yeah, we again the routing and scheduling is at the discretion of the board. You know, final decisions and final major decisions are made by the board in terms of our fixed schedule. There is some leeway for staff and BC Transit to make some common sense adjustments on components. If you'd like either local service, like a shuttle that is in Cawston that meets the number 50, you know, the 6 times a week that it goes through, or a permanent deviation to there, it's something that we'd probably want to engage with folks in Cawston and our current users on, just to determine what the cost benefit is, just in terms of the overall experience and time of the ride. You know, if you're hearing that folks in Cawston are missing having that dedicated stop, I'd be more than happy to revisit the planning of the route.
Yeah, I believe the stop is getting more common, and I think it would be if it was consistent too. Thank you.
All right, Director Gilbert, last question.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And transit's my thing, and I think I appreciate Director Bush bringing this up. And you know, I think more of a comment than anything, it'd be nice to see maybe possibly in the future a bus that goes between Osoyoos and Karamias that would service both people trying to get into the Similkameen community instead of having to go all the way up to Caledon to catch a bus to get into the Similkameen that way, and having it go from Osoyoos to Cawston would be great.
So through the chair, are you saying a Karamias Osoyoos regional service?
So, sorry. Yeah, Karamias to Osoyoos. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll refer you to page 20 of our Transit Future Action Plan, which talks about that potential. Doesn't have a final costing on hours and whatnot, but it has been identified as a service priority by the board. So I'll flag that with a star.
Alrighty, well, I think we've exhausted all our questions. So I want to thank you for your presentation. And with no further business, I'd like to make a motion to end this committee meeting. First, second, all in favor? Thank you. To the chair, please.
Thank you, Director Monteith. That brings us to the Planning and Development Committee meeting, and I will turn it over to Director Weeb.
Thanks, everybody.
My understanding. Did we? Is there lunch? Well then. If we want to. We can definitely do that. We didn't have a break scheduled. So lunch is here. Partake. And I'll leave it up to you to call everybody back.
Moving on to the agenda item B, short-term rental accommodation review, electoral areas A, C, D, E, F, and I. There was a motion on the floor from July 3rd, 2025. Moved and seconded that the following bylaws be brought forward for consideration of a first reading at a forthcoming regional district meeting. Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 3099. Okanagan Valley Zoning Bylaw number 2800.50. Business License Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 3100-0.01. Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 3097.01. And that business licenses for electoral A for traditional B&B be removed. That the business license requirement for electoral area D for traditional B&Bs be removed. That Apex be exempt from the business license requirements. Is there a presentation from staff? Okay, so you're here for questions? Perfect. So it's been moved and seconded that the following bylaws be brought forward. So now, just so I'm clear, we need a motion for what's been brought forward now, or we're looking for adoption of all the things that are listed?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So this resolution sits and is ready to be voted on or discussion, whichever comes first. Because the bylaw was amended twice at the previous committee meeting, it can no longer or be further amended. So as it sits right now, it's before the board for consideration. I'm not sure what the board's wishes are, or if they were looking for any alternatives to where this sits right now, but that's where we sit right now.
So we're looking for adoption or potentially to have a new motion, but this motion can't be amended again. It can either be voted in or we would have a new motion potentially. Is that correct?
Yes, so this motion is on the floor, so the option is to vote on it. However, I just caution the board or the committee as if it were defeated in the thoughts of bringing forward another motion. We would have to be very careful because we couldn't bring forward a consideration of first meeting of those bylaws because you will have defeated that in this resolution. I would recommend that if the board is no longer wanting to proceed with this resolution, it is a new committee session, so the board could pass a resolution withdrawing it, to withdraw the motion.
Maybe what I'll do, I'll look for the directors for A, C, D, E, F, and I, as we typically go to those that are affected by the bylaw to speak to it, or Director Monteith?
Thank you through the chair. I'm pleased with it, the way it's presented, so if we're.
Looks like you have something to say, Director Federico? No? Okay. And anyone else? Sorry. Oh.
For myself, I'm comfortable with what's there now. I'll support it.
Director Taylor?
I'm just wondering if I could request what? No, I'm fine.
So then if I'm reading the room correctly and there's no hands raised online, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And I didn't see any, and just so I see that our corporate officer was just making, I didn't see any opposed hands. I just want to make sure that that's correct. Well, let me just make sure that we have that accurate. There were no opposed. Okay, good. And now question. Yeah.
So doesn't this have to be taken to the board? Okay, so what we're doing is recommending to the board.
Sorry, the recommendation,
Okay.
bring a motion to the board. Okay, so then I will ask if, yes, go ahead, Director Federico.
Thank you, through the chair. Can we get a timeline from staff then on your thoughts on when this will come to the board?
Through the chair, it would be the next board meeting. This would come for first and second reading. There's also a number of other related administrative bylaws that didn't involve any further public consultation or involve any further changes that have sort of been sitting at various stages of the process. Those will also be brought either for first reading or for adoption in the case of the business license bylaw at the next meeting.
Okay, and Director Taylor?
Could you just follow along from that and just walk us through sort of a timeline to when our residents might anticipate a requirement to have a business license then? The implementation schedule.
Yes, so there is, I do have some brief notes. They don't go into detail on like exact meeting dates on the second page of the report. The business license component, that bylaw is sitting at third reading. So the next board meeting at the end of August, that bylaw could come forward for adoption. The land use bylaws, there's a few additional steps required so that because it involves an amendment to the official community plans, a public hearing will be required for those. So a few additional steps for the zoning and OCP amendment bylaws that'll likely be later in the fall, likely around October. Just off the top of my head, thinking about the sequence of board meeting dates.
So follow up?
So follow up then, sorry, and I'm just trying to understand what that means in terms of when residents might have to obtain a business license.
Mm-hmm. So through the chair, the business license requirement would come into effect immediately upon adoption. Property owners could apply for a business license as soon as that is adopted, and for online listing platforms through the province, that would become a requirement. The land use bylaws, there will be a short delay for those to catch up since they do require first reading through adoption and the holding of a public hearing.
Do we know how will operators become aware that they now need a business license? At one point, I thought that the provincial registry had said they would notify people if a business license requirement became a requirement. I'm not pushing you into areas that's not your responsibility. I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Yeah, through the chair, obviously I can't comment on the province's exact procedures, but anecdotally, we have been receiving some queries from property owners that seem to be prompted by messaging that the province is sending out. So my understanding is that there may be some work going on in the background between the province and operators that is informing them of any outstanding requirements for their registration and other provincial components that are still outstanding.
Director Federico, you still had a question? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, the chair. So with the business license bylaw sitting at third reading, but we've made amendments in committee, with those amendments, which is the business licenses in area E for all tourist accommodation, is that going to be reflected when it comes to the board when we adopt that?
Through the chair, yes. The amendment to the business license bylaw could occur immediately after the adoption of the business license bylaw. I believe the intent was to bring that amendment bylaw for first through adoption at a single meeting, just so that it is enacted immediately.
Well, maybe I'm reading the face of our corporate officer just to see if there's anything to add to that. Okay, just double checking. I've learned to look to that corner to confirm we're doing things properly. Follow-up Director Federico.
Follow up to that. So on the agenda, we'll show our adoption of business licenses with that immediate amendment at the same board meeting.
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. They will appear as two separate bylaws, just due to the mechanics of how that needs to occur.
Any further questions, comments? And just to clarify that there is nothing further on the agenda for this meeting. And it looks like everybody is happy or well fed. So I'll call a motion to adjourn. Are you willing to make that motion? And seconded, all those in favor? And thank you, we are adjourned.
That's it for the day, everybody, and thank you for your patience and attendance. Yeah, who was patient? You mean you were in?